We're not supposed to like her, identify with her, or care about her. We're here to watch her sink lower and lower and then think about what that means. Hello, welcome to Sound and Fury Book Reviews. As usual, I am Tina. Today I'm doing a book review of something a little different. I'm reviewing My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Ottessa Moshfegh. I'm assuming that's how you say it. This is a 2018 contemporary literary fiction from Penguin. There are no spoilers in this review. I first saw this book reviewed on Better Than Food's amazing channel where he reviews like literary fiction. So while I didn't watch the whole review at the time, because spoilers, his initial comments about it being funny and, well, great, convinced me to read it. I'd been interested in this book since it came out, and I definitely enjoyed it, so. A weird, intriguing, darkly comic novel about a woman who is just done. My Year of Rest and Relaxation is an absolutely brilliant takedown of the American dream and is the most fun you'll have reading about someone taking medication. So what is it about? Our narrator should be happy, shouldn't she? She's young, thin, pretty, a recent Columbia graduate, works an easy job at a hip art gallery, lives in an apartment of the Upper East Side of Manhattan, paid for, like the rest of her needs, by her inheritance. But there is a hole in her heart, and it isn't just the loss of her parents, or the way her Wall Street boyfriend treats her, or the sadomasochistic relationship with her best friend Reva. It's the year 2000, in a city aglitter with wealth and possibility. What could be so terribly wrong? If you watch my channel regularly, you'll know that one thing I'm not super into is, well, rich people. Wealth culture is, for lack of a better phrase, distasteful to me. I go out of my way to avoid it and kind of subvert that. So this book, featuring a young woman who is affluent to the extent that she can stay in her apartment for an entire year and not work, you would think that I would have no interest in that. But it's clearly a satire. It's clearly trying to say something. At least to me, none of it is meant to be realistic. So therefore, I am cool with it. It's a critique of Big Pharma. It uses hyperbole to address doctors overprescribing medication, and it shows what having too much time and money can do to you. The main character, unnamed, is pathetic in more ways than one, and I would argue she is such because she doesn't have to struggle. She hasn't had to work for a single thing in her entire life, and this makes her lazy and tired. She's pretty too, of course, which adds another layer of ease to her life. And because her life is so easy, she is depressed. Yes, she also had a terrible mother and a distant father, both dead, which contribute to her melancholy. But I think the main point of the novel is that those who have had everything handed to them don't know how to be happy because there's no satisfaction from a job well done. It takes this idea of the American dream in the early 2000s, that of being rich, essentially, and calls it out. In fact, this book has a lot in common with Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, in its subversive take on this concept. I would argue that the nonsensical and ludicrous experiences in Fear and Loathing are flipped in Rest and Relaxation. Instead of causing havoc to the masses while on drugs for one weekend, she retreats from society while on drugs for 1 year, but with the same goal of implying that the general idea of the American dream is utter nonsense. I'm not saying people who struggle to put food on the table should be happy about that, or that wealth inequality isn't probably one of the worst things our society has ever created. But that once you have the basic standard of living accounted for, there is a self-actualization we get when we have to work for something. We're not supposed to feel sympathy for the narrator in this regard. We're just watching in fascination, almost like we're voyeurs, as she self-medicates to the point of erasing her entire existence. This perpendicts, is that a word? Fear and Loathing, in that both arrive at the same concept, but come at it from different angles. Illegal drugs versus prescribed, disrupting society versus hiding from it, etc. The same critique is happening, but in using a different method. In reality, none of what she does would make sense. She would hurt herself or be racked with issues, both psychological, chemical and physical, from the number of drugs she's taken well before the year was up. But it's a literary fiction. It's not a women's fiction where she learns about herself and becomes a better person. The narrator is not meant to be real in that sense. We're not supposed to like her, identify with her, or care about her. We're here to watch her sink lower and lower and then think about what that means. Quite frankly, for a book with almost no plot, we're mainly watching her take drugs, eat junk, disrespect her friend, think about her trash ex-boyfriend, and mourn her dead parents, all while she watches movies. It's addictive in that you're curious as to where her self-destructive behavior is going. It's also so funny. She's so crass and gross. She talks about unhygienic things, about her bowels, about the grosser aspects of sex. She's kind of a gross person, and that's probably the only redeeming thing about her. Haven't we all just wished we could just do nothing for a while, not have to worry about showering or cleaning or eating well? We just want to lie on the couch high as fuck eating pizza. Or maybe I've been wrong about this book, and that's really the American dream? I don't know. She also brings up things that I think are intended to make people uncomfortable in small ways. Early in the book, she describes one of her friendships as: we'd been friends since college, long enough that all we had left in common was our history together. A complex circuit of resentment, memory, jealousy, denial, and a few dresses I'd let Reva borrow, which she'd promised to dry clean and return, but never did. Or when she talks about her father dying. He had been dying in the hospital for weeks already, but now he wanted to die at home. I left school and took the train up to see him the very next day, not because I thought it would mean so much to him to have me there, but to prove to my mother that I was a better person than she was. I was willing to be inconvenienced by someone else's suffering. Yeah. I also love the descriptions in the novel. She's so great at describing rooms and items to give it a sense of realism and grittiness. I got another quote for you. The bathroom looked like it belonged to a pair of adolescent twins preparing for a beauty pageant. I could smell the mildew and the puke and the Lysol. A pink expanded toolbox burst with brushes and applicators of all shapes and sizes, drugstore makeup, nail polish, stolen testers, a dozen shades of Maybelline lip gloss. On the shelf there were 2 hair dryers, a curling iron, a flat iron, a bowl of bejeweled barrettes with plastic headbands. Cutouts from fashion magazines were taped to the edges of the mirror over the low vanity and sink. There was a bowl of cotton balls and swabs, a bowl of bobby pins, 2 huge bottles of Listerine. Next to the cup that must have held a dozen toothbrushes, each head of bristles yellowed and frayed, a prescription bottle of Vicodin. So yeah, it just goes on like that. It's not describing something beautiful, and that's kind of what's great about it. It's like watching an episode of Hoarders. You can feel the grime that she's describing, and she's just very great at kind of digging into kind of the depths of everyday kind of items, and I found that really interesting and fascinating. Now, one thing I will say is that what really kind of brought the book down for me was the ending was so obvious. It actually took away from any emotional aspect of it. I would have found it far more tragic if it hadn't been so expected. Like, going into it from like the first page, I was kind of like, oh, okay, well, I'm assuming this happens at the end, and then that happens. I'm not going to get all into it, obviously, for spoiler reasons, so I'll just end by saying, if you're not afraid of anything I just talked about in this book, do check it out. It's kind of a wild ride. You're not supposed to like the person. It's not one of those books. And check out Better Than Food's review. It's way better than mine in terms of intellectual kind of thought. But I definitely enjoyed this book. I thought it was great, and I'm definitely going to read more of her stuff, because this is the kind of literary fiction that I like. So yeah. Yeah, thanks for watching. And I know I look so pretty today because we had family photos, so I'm wearing makeup. Wow. I don't get a year of rest and relaxation. But man, that's the dream. Just some goddamn peace and quiet.